Every person engages in challenging behavior at one time or another. Think about your own behavior. Do you engage in behavior that others might perceive as challenging? You may or may not be willing to admit to your own challenging behavior, so let's take a look at a common one. Speeding. Is speeding a challenging behavior? What if it's only 5 miles per hour over the speed limit? What about 10 miles per hour over the speed limit? What if you have a really good reason for speeding? When does speeding become a challenging behavior? How about when you get stopped by the police or cause a serious accident? If this happens again and again, we would probably call this a challenging behavior. Let's take a look at why you might engage in challenging behavior. Why do people speed? People know that there are negative consequences for speeding. So what are some of these? Well, you might get into or cause a car accident. Or you could get a speeding ticket. These things don't happen to us often, and because of that, they aren't much of a deterrent for speeding. If you don't go too much above the speed limit, you pay attention, and you're careful, you may never encounter negative consequences of speeding. So what are some of the positive consequences of speeding? You might get where you're going a little bit faster. Maybe you feel a sense of accomplishment by being faster than the person next to you. Or maybe you're just able to concentrate on something else that is weighing on your mind, and you're not paying attention to exactly how fast you're going. So why do we speed even though there is the chance for negative consequences? The positive consequences happen more frequently and more consistently. The negative consequences rarely occur. Are the negative consequences in place to reduce speeding effective? Not if people continue to do it in excess. In order to change speeding behavior, we could reinforce driving within the speed limit through a form of technology that tracks this, and a monthly check from your car insurance company. If you knew that your speed was constantly monitored and there was a sufficient amount of money coming for driving under the speed limit, would you be more inclined to drive slower? This might motivate some people, but probably not everyone. Changing challenging behavior is something that is unique to the individual. You have to understand what motivates the person to engage in the challenging behavior and what might motivate that person to engage in an alternative behavior. Just like you, your child probably engages in challenging behavior now and then. You're probably taking this course because your child's behavior falls outside of what you feel capable of addressing on your own. Maybe the behavior is more intense, frequent, or dangerous than you have seen with other children. Maybe you have tried all the traditional parenting techniques recommended by Super Nanny, and yet your child still engages in these behaviors. What Super Nanny doesn't take into consideration is that challenging behavior is usually a form of communication. Your child doesn't engage in challenging behavior because she's a bad child or because you're a bad parent. Challenging behavior develops because a child doesn't have an effective way to communicate what she needs or wants. This is true even if your child speaks very well. Imagine you're on the phone talking to someone at the bank after being on hold for almost an hour. Your child comes up to you and says, "Dad, I need a drink. Can you get me one?" You probably respond by turning your back and continuing with the call. The call is important and will be finished soon. You will help your daughter when it's done. But this isn't your daughter's plan. She starts to cry and soon she is in a full-blown tantrum. You can barely hear the person on the other end of the phone, so you walk to the kitchen and grab her cup from the refrigerator just to make it quiet enough for you to finish the call. Experiences like this one teach your child that when her words don't work, her behavior does. We rarely see these behaviors as they develop over time because a single instance that isn't really intense probably goes completely unnoticed, just like a single instance of going 5 miles per hour over the speed limit. As the behavior escalates over time, the problem becomes more apparent, and it's at that point you decide you need to intervene. Only now you don't know what to do. Your job at this point is to become a detective. This course will help you understand your child's behavior and figure out what she is saying with that behavior. Once you have this information, you can teach her to get what she wants in a better way without challenging behavior. At the same time, you must also identify what skills your child needs to be able to better manage difficult or disappointing situations when they come up in the future. The process to get to this understanding and effective teaching is the basics of ABA that we are going to cover in this course. If your child engages in severe, dangerous behavior, make sure you are working with a qualified BCBA and not trying to do this on your own. Let's take a look at some behaviors you might want to address using ABA. Some potentially dangerous behaviors include hitting or hurting others, hitting or hurting themselves, running away from supervising adults in public places, leaving the home unattended and without permission, threatening with potential weapons, or breaking objects resulting in potential hazards. Disruptive behaviors might include tantrums or meltdowns, breaking or throwing objects, yelling or screaming, and spitting. Behaviors that limit success in the community might include disrobing, inappropriate self-touching, inappropriately touching others, swearing or other inappropriate language, and task refusal. If your child engages in any of these behaviors, it's probably time to intervene by learning what you can about ABA.